Hi folks, it's CNB Bazaar Buzz Time. I'm Siddharth and boy have we all had a really busy week bringing this show to you. Plenty going on in the automobile industry and we've got it covered for you. This is what's coming up. Mahindra gives its XUV its second massive facelift. We have the review. The Tata Nexon gets the much awaited AMT or Hyprdrive variant. And automobile Pininfarina takes birth in Italy's capital. Right, let's get straight to the XUV5OO. Now, it's a second facelift for the car, as I mentioned, and that's unusual. Doesn't usually happen like that, but that's because Mahindra believes it's important to reinvigorate its really popular flagship SUV. It's been popular, things have started to decline, and that's why making it more relevant, well, I guess that makes sense. There is a lot that's changed from a styling perspective, from the cabin as well as even the extra power that's on board now. Ameya drove the car and has all the details for you.
Once the king of the hill, Mahindra has been facing tough competition in the SUV arena. The XUV5OO in particular has been under a lot of pressure, and we told you that when we pitted it against the Tata Hexa. The Hyundai Creta and the Jeep Compass have also proved to be threats, and the XUV hasn't been able to ward it off.
So the XUV5OO had to do something drastic, which is why Mahindra decided to give it yet another facelift. This one, a more detailed at that. If you see, the front grille has changed entirely, the headlamp housing is different, there are LED DRLs, there is a skid plate underneath, but that is only available in the top spec variant. The overall silhouette of the car still remains the same. Those diamond cut alloy wheels that you see, they are 18 inches. The previous one had 17. All these details actually make it look a bit more premium, and maybe it will help it get some traction in that growing SUV segment in India.
The restyled tailgate sees the use of chrome accents above the license plate housing. The vertical tail lamps have now been replaced by a smaller unit. The tail lamps are now triangular and are placed horizontally, making the rear look a lot sleeker. The rear spoiler is more pronounced than before. There's also a change in the variant nomenclature, and just like the Scorpio, the XUV5OO will get variants ending in odd numbers. The top spec is now badged W11. The changes continue on the inside too. The XUV now comes with dual-tone interiors, and the top spec model gets tan-colored leather seats, which add to the look and feel of the car. The center console too gets piano black treatment with chrome inserts, and another interesting touch is the use of faux leather on the dashboard and the doors. It still comes with a 7-inch touchscreen infotainment system, USB and Bluetooth connectivity, and of course there's Android Auto too. No Apple CarPlay yet on the car. The rest of the cabin is a familiar place with everything carried forward from the previous model. Mahindra has managed to get smartwatch connectivity as well, but we didn't get a chance to dive deeper into this as it was not made available. But the engine is the talking point of the car because it's got more power. We have got the diesel manual with us today.
Well, there's no change in terms of engine because it gets the same 2.2 litre M-Hawk diesel engine, but there's also a petrol on offer, which is also 2.2 litre, which churns out 140 brake horsepower. This one, in fact, the diesel has been uprated to produce 153 brake horsepower. That's 13 more than before. The 140 brake horsepower engine will not be available on any of the variants on the XUV. It doesn't drive any differently than before, but the NVH levels have been worked upon, and it's a lot less noisy than before. Thanks to the torque of 360 Newton meters, which is available from as low as around 1800 RPM. It actually makes driving better. It just means that there is a lot of power at your disposal at very low RPM. So when you want to switch and overtake, this one actually gives you, the turbocharger actually gives you a good amount of surge, and that's very good. But the overall ride and handling still remains the same.
Mahindra is offering some new colors on the XUV5OO, Crimson Red and Mystic Copper, both of which we did not get to see, but that Crimson Red does sound promising. Prices have come down and that's just made the XUV5OO even more competitive, and Mahindra will hope that the refresh brings its customers back into Mahindra showrooms and, more importantly, back to driving the once popular XUV.
From one Indian car maker, we move on to the next one. That's Tata Motors, of course, and the Nexon has been extremely popular and has been doing really well for the company, in fact, notching up the sales, and also the popularity of the brand starting to come back because of the Nexon in many ways. Now, you've seen it all over the cricket stadiums during the T20 matches, but those were all manual cars. Now, the automatic is ready to roll, the AMT or Hyperdrive as Tata calls it, and of course we've reviewed it for you. The Tata Nexon has been a runaway hit for the Indian car maker and now comes with the much anticipated and awaited Nexon AMT or Hyperdrive. Call it a crucial piece in the turnaround strategy at the brand and you won't be wrong. What began with the Tiago in good measure in 2016 was partially carried on by the Hexa and Tigor, has now been thrust in the right direction by the Nexon. The subcompact SUV has sold over 25,000 units in its first 6 months since launch, and so it's only natural that Tata wants to expand on that. So, as was always expected, the Nexon now goes automatic with an AMT or automated manual transmission, or as Tata likes to call it, Hyperdrive. So let's dive right into it. The Nexon gets a 6-speed AMT gearbox, and like its manual counterparts, the Nexon AMT also has the 3 driving modes, namely Sport, City and Eco, which you can switch on the fly using a rotary dial placed between the front seats. Now, typically on an AMT, you lose that sense of power or that alacrity that you want, especially when you want to quickly overtake someone. So you want to downshift and get that nice burst of power. All right, nice rumblers on the road there. But the point being that Tata says its engineers have put in something called a kick-down mode on this car to provide you exactly that. Does it work? Let's see. All right, the response is almost typically AMT-like. But what happens if I put it into sport mode? Let's see.
Sport drive mode is activated.
All right, sport drive mode is activated. Now let's see. So it's not an absolutely instant sharp response, but it's certainly better in sport. So if you're driving on the highway, we suggest you stick to the sport mode. Even then, you have to plan your overtaking maneuvers in advance so that you're not left wanting for the surge of power when you most need it. But that's not a flaw on this car in particular. It is an impediment of AMTs in general. Let's take a look at the specs of the car I'm driving. This is the diesel, and nothing has changed between the manual and this, so really the numbers remain pretty much the same. And while I'm driving the diesel, Kingshuk has been spending time driving alongside me on the petrol. So that's a huge advantage, I think, the fact that Tata is starting this off, the Hyperdrive or AMT, with both fuel types as options. That's a good thing, isn't it, Kingshuk?
That's right. It's always a good headache to have when you're presented with more options. And that is precisely what Tata is doing with the Nexon AMT. Now, all that remains to be seen is how Tata prices the Nexon AMT variants and when does it launch them.
The Nexon AMT retains its good on-road manners, and we are happy to report that the ride quality remains as good as the manual variants that first came out 6 months ago. We had some twisties on our test drive route and never did the car feel out of breath or depth negotiating them. That is until you get used to the AMT's delayed response, of course.
Interestingly, the 1.2-litre petrol engine and the 1.5-litre diesel engine on the Nexon AMT, they make the same amount of power, which is 108.5 brake horsepower. Of course, the diesel makes 260 Newton meters of torque, while the petrol makes around 170 Newton meters of torque. And the petrol engine, it feels a touch more engaging to drive. That's because when you mash the throttle, it feels more responsive. The gears shift quicker, and overall, the fun factor is a touch more in the petrol AMT option than the diesel AMT option. That's what I feel.
So looks like Kingshuk lucked out with a more fun twin there, but luckily they both look exactly the same. The car's unique stance and roof line do give it a hatchback-like look in traffic rather than an SUV, but it still works. So the Nexon's a good-looking car to begin with. It is our design of the year as well, and I have to say that the two-tone with the grey, silver grey, whatever you want to call it, with this color in particular, looks much nicer than the white element that you saw running around the car on the blue or the other colors. So this one gets a thumbs up from me. Tata Motors will also be offering customization options on the Nexon AMT. There'll be two body kits on offer, which are the Active and the Aero. In fact, Tata had showcased the Nexon with the Aero body kit and has already launched it as well. Apart from that, customers will be able to choose the color of the body and the roof on Tata's online Imaginator platform. The Etna Orange will be offered on just the AMT, by the way, which is a cool idea. Now, we've known Tata to be aggressive with its pricing, and it's quite likely it's going to stay the course with the Nexon AMT too. I expect it to launch from the mid trims upwards, so should stay between 7 and 11 lakh rupees for both the petrol and diesel AMT versions. It is a great game plan for Tata to offer both petrol and diesel together. So Pininfarina has always been a coach builder and a car designer, most famous for being Ferrari's favorite car designer over the years, but of late has broken away from that sort of lineage and is looking to chart a new course. Now, a few years ago, it's M&M that acquired Pininfarina, and at the time, we were given a promise that we'll finally see cars with that badge on them, the Pininfarina badge, and it's now going to be a reality. It's going to be a high-end Tesla rival, if you want to call it that. So, performance-rated cars, beautiful, gorgeous Italian cars, but all electric.
Pininfarina, one of the most well-known names in the automotive universe and probably the most well-known design house ever. After years of designing some of the most iconic and prettiest cars ever made, like the Chiz Italia, the Ferrari 250 GTO, the Ferrari F40, the Ferrari Enzo, and more recently the 458, not to mention a clutch of Fiats, Maseratis, Alfa Romeos, Lancias, Peugeots, and even Hyundais, Pininfarina is stepping into a new chapter and will, for the first time in its history, become an automaker. Being rescued financially by Mahindra with its takeover of the company in 2015, Automobili Pininfarina can finally take the shape the company's original founder had dreamed of. And as can be expected, the first Pininfarina will be a hypercar. The brand's intent is to stay very high-end, performance-oriented, and oh yes, all electric.
As far as this car is concerned, this is in a sense Mahindra enabling the fulfillment of an unfinished dream of Battista Pininfarina. He and the senior Mr. Ferrari started designing their cars together. All of the cars, original cars of Ferrari, were designed by him. It is a wonderful story, but poor Mr. Battista Pininfarina, that collaboration meant that his vision for an automobile, his exclusive vision, was never fully realized. So this collaboration is essentially about Mahindra enabling that dream to become reality.
So here are the figures, and if you are standing up, you need to sit down. 0 to 100 km per hour in less than 2 seconds. 0 to 300 comes up in less than 12. A top speed of over 400 km per hour and a range of over 500 km. But enough of numbers. What Pininfarina is all about is design, and as you can see from the sketches, the car promises to be a stunner.
If we want to make something really beautiful, something really that makes the difference, you have to make a design timeless. So you have to think of the great masterpieces of the past and to try to design something that is harmonic, that is classic, that is full of balance of surface, that is aerodynamics, that is fluid, that is simple, that is essential. No, not only innovative, but you have to think as a benchmark to the best masterpieces of Pininfarina history. Because we want to make something that will be on the streets on 2020 and will be contemporary in 2050. And to make this, we have to think of the classical reference, like the Cisitalia, or that we brought here in Rome also, or other masterpieces. And we know the secret, and we will put it in this project.
The Pininfarina PF0 will follow a very distinct approach to design. Swooping and beautiful, the brand will launch the car by 2020, and the first full-size concept will be showcased at the 2018 Pebble Beach Concours d'Elegance in the United States.
Pininfarina doesn't need any word of introduction. When you go to Pebble Beach to be auctioned, you will see probably 40–50% of the cars being an auction in Pebble Beach have a Pininfarina badge on the side. So I think it's a long time, but you don't only have a badge on the side, you have to have a badge on the front and make sure we are Pininfarina as a standalone brand. And automobile Pininfarina is what people will have to recognize in a few years as definitely a brand to have in that grand luxury space.
The new company is a standalone operation, and Pininfarina, the design house, will be the styling partner, of course. But Automobili Pininfarina is a direct subsidiary of Mahindra Automotive. It will look to follow up the hypercar with other models like a performance sedan or coupe or even an SUV.
The customer who buy these cars must feel that they have something that nobody else has, or very few have. And therefore, whether it is telematic, whether it is connected car, whether it is digital, whether it is performance, whether it is luxury, whatever it might be, it will have to be extreme. We will use all the resources that are available within the company, Tech Mahindra included, and go out to tap into resources, as we have said earlier.
Don't expect it to launch in India anytime soon though, as this is largely a global play targeted at the West. But yet, there is hope.
Pre-independence, the biggest buyers of luxury cars around the world were Maharajas. So I don't think I'm talking to Maharajas to buy, but the modern day Maharajas of passion in cars. I do hope some collectors in India will end up owning this and putting them into Indian garages.
We cannot wait for all of it to unfold, and that the Italian dream is being brought to life by an Indian company just makes it so much sweeter. Watch this space for more from the brand.
A huge announcement coming from the Mahindra Group and of course Pininfarina there in Rome, coinciding with the Rome E-Prix, the Formula E race, where sadly Mahindra Racing had a terrible outing. Alright, let's move on, but stay electric, because there's lots happening now in the Indian space when it comes to electric. Now, I get it, there's still a long way to go in terms of having a lot of vehicles change over from conventional fuel systems to becoming fully electric, but it's starting to happen in a big way, and one of the ways is maybe for you to try it out for yourself. Mahindra again is stepping up here and tying up with Zoomcar, the rental company, to offer you an electric experience. So you can rent an electric car now for the first time in India. And you also have other electrics that are coming to the market. Strom is something that we first talked about at the Auto Expo. Well, that's coming to the market pretty soon as well.
To rent a car for daily use or even road trips over the weekend is a new trend. And renting a self-drive car for that matter is fast becoming the most preferred option among young users. Usually people either opt for petrol or diesel cars, but Zoomcar will now be offering electric cars as well. After successfully introducing electric cars on Zoomcar's platform in Mysuru, Jaipur and Hyderabad, the focus now shifts to the national capital as Mahindra has leased 100 units of the E20 Plus for customer use. In addition, Mahindra has also promised 500 more in the next quarter to promote the use of EVs in India. Now the E20 Plus on Zoomcar can be booked for an introductory price of 1 rupee per hour. Yes, you heard that right. You only have to pay the deposit money for the car and the charges start the moment you collect it. Considering renting an electric car is cheaper than owning one, Zoomcar hopes that the trend of electric cars will soon catch up. And that will be good news for Strom.
This interesting looking car that you see here is the all-new Strom R3. Built by a Mumbai-based startup called Strom Motors, the car comes in 3 variants: Strom Pure, Strom R3 Pure, Strom R3 Current and Strom R3 Bold. The car comes in 2 range options, 80 kilometers and 120 kilometers. And depending on the variant you choose, you also get a lot of features like automatic climate control, 2-tone color, and a sunroof.
The Strom R3 is a compact 2-door electric vehicle that uses reverse strike configuration with a single wheel at the rear and 2 wheels up front. Powering it is a 17 brake horsepower motor that comes mated to an integrated single-speed planetary gearbox. With a normal charger, the car can be fully charged in about 6 to 8 hours, while a fast charger offers 80% battery power within 2 hours. Battery and a few other technical details will be revealed at the time of the launch, which will be later this year. Visually, the R3 comes with an edgy design, a muscular front bumper, LED lighting and a 2-tone paint job, with a white roof and even an optional sunroof. The car runs on a set of 12-inch alloy wheels and comes with a small cabin suited for 2 to 3 passengers. While the standard features include an audio system with USB and FM radio, it also gets a 7-inch touchscreen infotainment system, customizable user interface, voice control, Wi-Fi plus 3G connectivity, Bluetooth and 20 GB of inbuilt storage as optional extra. The car gets front and rear compartments, and while the one in front is good for a laptop bag or a handbag, the one at the back can hold a carry-on or 3 to 4 grocery bags. On the safety front, it gets remote keyless entry, parking assist, rear camera and 3-point seat belts. Built locally at the company's facility in Mumbai, the Strom R3 electric car is slated to hit the Indian roads by November 2018. Prices are expected to start around 3 lakh rupees, and the company has already started accepting pre-orders for the first 100 cars. It says that 30 bookings have already been received for the car.
So SUVs in the first half and electrics in the second half. Please react to what you've seen on the program today. You know how you can reach me on Twitter at @SidPartner, and always remember to wear your seat belts in an electric or conventional car, front or back. Please wear your helmets again on any kind of bike. Take care.